Hello, my name is Dr. Francheska Perepletchikova. Today we're going to continue on our very important discussion on how to learn to give to ourselves, provide for our own needs instead of waiting for others to love us, reinforce us, validate us, support us, how to learn to bake your own bread. And we're going to discuss a very important ingredient of that bread baking, which is called self-reinforcement. I have a question for you. How many do you think out of the people that you know, or maybe in the world, have been actually taught to self-reinforce by their own parents? Unfortunately, not that many. When I ask that question of the people that I provide clinical services, that I train, my own friends, acquaintances, most of the people say, no, that was not a part of our discussions with my parents. Well, listen, how can that be a part of your discussions with your parents when your parents themselves have not been taught how to self-reinforce, and then it becomes something that is transmitted or not transmitted from generation to generation. Unfortunately, not a lot of us have been taught self-reinforcement. Instead, we're taught to self-criticize, to self-judge. Partially, this is stemming from something that is actually very natural to us as humans. It's called a negativity bias. We, as humans, are pre-programmed. It comes in our hardware, so to speak. We come pre-programmed. It is instinctual for us to orient to negative events because they may be unsafe. So our sense of safety automatically orients us to something that may be unsafe, and therefore we notice, acknowledge, and remember more negative events than positive events. That applies also to parenting a child. We as parents, therefore, have higher tendency to see a negative event that's happening with our kid, comment on it, acknowledge it to ourselves and our child, than a positive event, right? How many of you have seen two children playing nicely together, sharing toys, having fun, and parents coming in on purpose and saying, oh my goodness, great job, playing so nicely together. I'm going to bring you some milk and cookies. It happens sometimes, however, not very often and not purposeful to reinforce that behavior. Instead, everything is nice and quiet, and parents like, okay, have this quiet moment to go and relax somewhere. And as soon as squabble between the two kids start, what do? We rush, we pay attention, we criticize, and we punish whatever the negative behavior that we see that is much more frequent. And negativity bias is one of the issues. Also, our mood dictates us rushing and trying to get control over the situation, get the control back. Now, on top of that, not only we are noticing more of the negative events for ourselves and for our children and comment on those, we also treat positive behaviors a lot of the time as shoulds, such as my child should be polite, my child should follow my directions right away. What are we doing here is we're treating behaviors that are learned. They are learned responses. We're not born with instinctual need to be polite and follow directions of our parents right away, right? We all want control, right? So want to do the opposite of that instinctually. Now, so we're not born with that. It's not a reflex. However, we as parents somehow assume that my child should be polite, should follow directions right away. So we're treating learned responses as if they are reflexes, as if they are instincts. And therefore, we're not providing the reinforcement that needs to be provided to the learned behavior to increase probability of those behaviors happening and to maintain that behavior in future. Now, so what is happening? We are orienting to the negative. We are automatically seeing it and acknowledging it, while orientation to the positive events is requiring effort. It's not automatic. We treat positive behaviors as if they should be happening, like reflexes, and therefore not commenting, acknowledging, and reinforcing them. So the end result of that is what? Most of what we hear as children is feedback that is corrective feedback at best, negative feedback on the negative behaviors. And a lot of the time, it's not only on what we did, also coupled with who we are, saying not only what you did was wrong, but there's also something wrong with you for doing it. And what you did is an empirical evidence to demonstrate that there is something wrong with you. And all of that over time developed this record that is playing in the back of our minds. This I'm bad, I'm defective, I'm deficient, what's wrong with me? Of course, how else can it be that all of us are plagued by this record of self-judgment and self-criticism? And when a challenge comes my way, and most of what I remember is my failures because of that record, because of my negativity bias, because I was pre-programmed, right, for looking at the negative, plus all the programming that I received from my immediate family and the environment. All I remember, most of what I remember is negative, my failures, a challenge comes my way. Therefore, I will have self-doubt. I will be much more likely to freeze, run away, avoid, because all I remember is me failing. I'll be afraid to tackle that problem, and therefore I will not be very likely to be effective in solving those challenges. Instead, I'll have a tendency to avoid, again, criticize myself on top of it, and also increasing probability of me doing what's called orientation to the external locus of control, right? Making other people responsible, blaming them for what's going on, waiting for them to help me and resolve my problems for me and save me, so to speak. Now, not only we're not taught to self-reinforce, such as simply saying, great job, me, mentally patting, or maybe physically, really, literally patting yourself on the shoulder. On top of that, when our accomplishments finally are recognized, that does happen, what are we praised on? We are praised most often on the outcome, not on the process. Therefore, we are praised on what we got, not what we did. However, outcomes don't belong to us. We don't control outcomes. We only control our contributions to the end result. Saying to a child, oh, great job getting an A on your test, congratulations on that A. What you're reinforcing here is an outcome, but that A does not belong to the child. So many variables need to happen just like that for that A to happen. And only one of those variables is your child's effort and contribution to study the material to receive that grade. Also, there may be other variables at play. For example, your child woke up in the morning and felt under the weather. There's low probability of that child having a full mental capacity to actually read the stems and answer the questions to their full, ability. Also, maybe the teacher decided to give different questions on that test that did not discuss with the classroom. Maybe the teacher doesn't like your child that much and is reducing the grade artificially. Again, so many variables need to happen just like that for any outcome, including receiving a grade. And the number of variables that need to happen just like that for any outcome is infinite number. For us to control those outcomes, we need to know each and every one of those variables and be in a capacity to exercise control over each and every one of them. Is it possible? Of course not. The only variable in this infinite string of variables that I have an ability to directly influence is me. what I do, what I feel, what I think, my biology, that's it. Therefore, when we're praising our children, it's very important to remember to praise on the process, what they have contributed, what is actually theirs. They don't own the outcomes. And when we praise them on outcomes, we are putting them in a position to have unrealistic expectations, increasing chances of perfectionism, and of course, teaching them attachment to outcome. Every moment in life presents us with a new challenge, and therefore presents us with an opportunity to self-reinforce and or self-validate. If we face the challenge, if we did not run away from it, if we did our best, if we learned from the experience, all of that is great job me, regardless of whether or not we got the outcome that we wanted. So there are a lot of times that we can self-reinforce and self-validate at the same time. We can reinforce ourselves on what we contributed and then self-validate that even though we did our best, we still did not get what we wanted and we're disappointed. So we can do self-reinforcement and self-validation at the same time. Now, what self-reinforcement does, it helps us to reprogram the way we think. It takes us away from self-criticism and self-judgment, which is the opposite of self-reinforcement and self-validation. And self-criticism and self-judgment is about, I did something wrong and there's something wrong with me. It's always personal. Anytime we self-judge and self-criticize, we are tapping and destroying, so to speak, our relationships with ourselves that is supposed to be, I just am, neither good nor bad. My responses may be useful, not useful, helpful, not helpful. I may succeed or fail. However, this is the dialectic that we want to continue to maintain and balance. I just am, neither good nor bad. And I can succeed, fail. People like me, people don't. I make a mistake, I achieve mastery. It's always an and. Self-criticism destroys the stability of my relationship with me as that to an entity, neither good nor bad. So when we're practicing self-reinforcement, we're going away from self-criticism and we are paying attention to the response itself, nothing personal in it. Wow, I did a great job doing this. Great job me with that. Excellent, fantastic. Again, regardless of the outcome. And it's very important to remember that what we are doing is self-reprogramming. What we're learning within the series of the lectures that I'm giving, what I'm offering when I'm teaching my courses to parents, to children, to clinicians, is how to reprogram yourself on a level of consciousness. And self-reinforcement is one of those tools. So, a very important thing to remember, when you're self-reinforcing, it is actually critical to say, great job, me for doing this. Because it's not sufficient to just feel proud or acknowledge feeling proud. Because feelings are products of thoughts. Feelings don't reprogram our brain, don't reprogram our software. Thoughts do the reprogramming. Feelings are products of the programs. So don't just feel proud. Say to yourself, great job, me. And this is one of the ingredients of our baking the bread, learning how to give to ourselves, so that we also can have something to give to other people. And initiating and maintaining healthy relationships depends on our ability to give. What can I give to others? if I don't have much of my own? Self-reinforcement is one of the main ingredients of that bread baking. And we can start teaching our children to self-reinforce at a very early age, as early as 2 years old. However, parents, remember, for you to start teaching your child how to self-reinforce, you first always need to start with yourself, as with anything else. Start learning to self-reinforce yourself. And there are hundreds of opportunities during the day for self-reinforcement. You get up in the morning. You didn't want to go to work. It's cold. It's snow on the ground. You don't want to get out of this very warm bed. And you did. Great job, me. Small accomplishment still deserves self-reinforcement. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, I studied for this SAT for a year, and then I got a specific score that I wanted, right? And I am really feeling a lot pride in my process to getting that score. Look what I was able to accomplish in my persistence and perseverance. Great job, me. So self-reinforcement can be on small things, big things, small accomplishments, big accomplishments, on a daily basis, as many times as you can. And again, self-reinforce on what you did, not at what you get, because then you will have an attachment to outcome. So parents, start self-reinforcing so that you can teach that to your children through discussions, but also through modeling. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in taking a workshop with me, if you're a parent or a clinician, please look at the information provided in the description below. And maybe I'll see you at one of my courses. Until next time.